Good morning, River Rocks Church. Hope everyone's having a great morning so far. My name's Trent. I'll be in the scripture with you today. We're going to be in Colossians 4:12 through 15. It says, Epaphras, who is one of you, a bondservant of Christ, greets you, always laboring fervently for you in prayer, that you may stand perfect and complete in all the will of God. For I bear him witness that he has a great zeal for you, and those who are in Laodicea, and those who are in Hierapolis. Luke, the beloved physician, and Demas greet you. Greet the brethren who are in Laodicea and Nymphas, and the church that is in his house. What we can understand is that the scripture in this section is going to be going through a good bit of names. It talks about the region of Laodicea. But what is Paul doing? He's about to be closing his letter. We only have a few more verses after this that are in this letter. And he's trying to wrap up to the Colossian church who's been praying for you, who's been a part of the building of the church. We understand that Epaphras is the first that is named in this section that we're reading today, and he's talking about prayer. And we have to make sure it's really, really cool to see how does Paul identify Epaphras? He identifies him as a brother who is a bondservant of Christ. We've talked about this idea of bondservant many times, but the idea of a bondservant is someone who is paying a debt that is owed to a person. And in this time period, what would be happening is that if I owed you a debt and I could not pay it by any means, I would work under you to pay that debt. We will never pay the debt that is covered or that is enveloped by sin. That Christ is the one that paid that debt for us, and as a result, we are the bondservants of Jesus Christ, willing and working to serve him in each and every way. The early church understood this. Today, this is something that's very hard for people to rationalize and understand, but it's not a term that is supposed to hurt us or a derogatory term. It's a term of endearment to mean that we are serving wholly to a holy God. It also says that he's praying for something specific. He says that he's one always fervently for you in prayers, that you may stand perfect and complete in all the will of God. He wants the Colossian church to hear, well done, thy good and faithful servant. We can understand that it says that he's praying fervently, which means that he's not just saying his prayer before breakfast. He's not just saying his prayer before bed and then that's it. He checks off the Christian box. What he's doing is he's praying with every ounce of his being. That word fervently means with as much diligence as possible, using every ounce of his being to pray for these people, to pray for the Colossians. And what was his prayer? To stand perfect and complete in all the will of God, which is a great prayer for anyone, but for these people specifically who are facing false doctrine, ton of heresy, different things in the region, this prayer was for them to stay focused on who Jesus Christ is, on his mission, so that they can hear, well done, thy good and faithful servant, so they can run the race well. It says that he has great zeal for you. Epaphras prayed well because he cared well. If he lacked in the zeal, then he would just pray a little prayer and then, you know what, Paul, I did it. Put me in the letter. But he's praying with zeal, with a care in his heart. So my question for you, when is the last time that you prayed with zeal? When was the last time that you prayed with an actual, just something that's more than just a feeling like you have to, but praying because you are so cut by the fact that somebody is hurting, that you are so broken by somebody else's sin, that you're so broken by your own sin, that you are so hurt by the fact that a family member denied Christ, and you want them so badly to understand Christ that you're not just throwing it at them all the time, but you're running to the Lord, that you're praying fervently with zeal that that person can understand Jesus Christ, that their heart can be softened to who he is, that the heart of stone can be made into a heart of flesh. Are you praying fervently for your coworkers? Are you praying fervently for the people around you, for the people that aren't around you, the people that are just within the world that are lost, that need to hear the gospel? Are you praying fervently for those people? We understand that it also is going to be mentioning Luke. This is the only area in Scripture that we understand what is Luke's background. Luke is the author of a gospel. He is also the author of the book of Acts. And here it describes him as a physician. We understand that he is just a normal guy. He was a physician that worked just typical job. We also see that his works are written with more of a scientific and analytical mindset. So it's cool to see the transition to know his job is to know why he has such a meticulous art of writing in his scripture. We also see a gentleman named Demas. We understand that he only greets the Colossian church. There's not much positive to say. There's not much around the name aside from he's greeting the church of Colossia. We understand that he says there's few laborers, but also in Laodicea, we see that this is the region that is talked about in Revelation 3:14-22. It's the neighboring city of Colossae, along with Hierapolis, which we see in the scripture. It talks about the neighboring cities. But then it also talks about somebody named Nymphas. In the last verse that we see, it says, "Greet the brethren who are in Laodicea and Nymphas, and the church that is in his house." We can think that Nymphas is a region, but it's actually a person. And what we understand is that it says that the church is in his house. What does this mean? The early church wasn't making big buildings, wasn't making the newest mega church that anybody and everybody in Rome and Laodicea and all of these regions would be going to. No, they were hidden. They were hiding within their homes. They were doing it within their homes. They were ensuring that the gospel was presented no matter the circumstance that was facing them. That's why prayer was needed, because we see this in other places. The underground church in China, for example, they can't go and build a great big church. If they do, what's going to happen? The government shuts them down and they are persecuted heavily. It's very similar here. They had to do it in a way that was hiding for their protection. That's why prayer was so evident and so needed. This was a lifestyle that they had to count the cost to understand that they have to let go of everything to be a follower of Jesus Christ. In our life, it feels like we don't even have to let go of anything to be a follower of Jesus Christ, because that's what the world says. The reality, Jesus says that you must die to yourself, that you no longer live for you, but you live for him, that you must die to yourself, take up the cross, and follow Christ. That is the call. So my prayer and my heart for you is to pray fervently, with zeal, and die to yourself, to your mentality, so that Christ may be glorified. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day.